Let's move on to Ukraine, Ryan.
Yes, so we're on the brink of nuclear annihilation right here in Washington, everywhere around the world, as the escalatory ladder continues to be climbed by Ukraine. We put this VO up here. This is footage of the Crimea bridge, boom, going boom. This was many months of planning, according to Ukraine. They strapped enormous amounts of explosives, as you can see there, to the base of the bridge. Apparently, it's back up and running. So maybe we can take a step down.
One of the more important bridges, if you're Russia.
Ladder. Yes, the Crimea bridge. It's not just a prized infrastructure project of Putin, but economically and culturally, it's extremely important for connecting Crimea with the rest of Russia at this point. This comes after this wild drone attack that went deep into Syria, going after the Russian bombers that are used. That the Ukrainians will say we hit them because they're used for bombing targets deep inside Ukraine. Critics of the operation say they're a central part of Russia's nuclear arsenal, and you are playing with nuclear fire by going there. One of those is retired Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, who was asked about what he sees as the risks of this Ukrainian attack, and he had a rather chilling response. We can roll that.
Sort of set up an analogy. Mexico or Canada or any third party, but particularly one that was proximate to our borders, launching missiles that hit Whiteman Air Force Base and destroyed B-2 bombers, or hit Barstow in Louisiana or Minot and destroyed B-52 bombers, or came in on Groton, Connecticut, where a ballistic missile submarine was being serviced and hit it. These are things that during the Cold War, we swore to each other, Moscow and Washington, that we would never do. These are things that are so destabilizing that Putin would be in his every right with regard to all the lessons we have learned, and they are many, to attack, and to attack with nuclear weapons. And to say to the rest of the world, they provoked me, they surely did, and I'm not losing my devices for responding should I be really provoked by a first strike. And that's what you're talking about. Never hit the assets that your nuclear armed enemy needs to assess whether or not you're attacking them. That's a no-no, always been a no-no. No one disputed that in Moscow or Washington, or for that matter, in the other capitals in the world.
See, Emily, I don't think that this justifies a nuclear response from Putin, but I don't like the idea that we're even in the area.
Yeah, of course.
Where it's an open question.
Yeah, it's insane.
Like we should try to avoid being in the area, the gray zone of nuclear response.
It's completely insane. Just sleptwalk directly into it. And right now, on the Hill today, Richard Blumenthal, Lindsey Graham are meeting.
They're back in the U.S.?
They're back here and meeting with a top advisor to Zelensky actually today and pushing the sanctions package. And who knows what else. The other thing
they were just in Ukraine.
They were just in Ukraine.
Cheering them on.
Yeah. Demanding more support from Trump, who's obviously frustrated with Putin and not without reason in the peace process, of course. But Ryan, the ease with which, Ukraine said that operation took several months, according to CNN. It's crazy to me that when you watch the video, you realize, it seems like that should be a much harder target to hit, given its importance.
True, but
saying,
underwater, and they also hit it, several months ago. If you remember, there was a footage of the car, you're just driving along and boom, all of a sudden.
Which is why it's kind of wild that they're able to pull it off after several months. That's one of the most obvious targets, but I think part of what's it's so obviously provocative to do that to the bridge, to do that to that bridge. It's so obviously provocative. So
Yes, it's wild.
It
And this
really
is while
is.
peace talks are going on, ceasefire talks are going on.
Yep. Well, and Ukraine, that operation that we covered on Monday, that went, more than 3,000 miles from Kyiv into Russia, that was, of course, literally the day before peace talks in Istanbul. So it's a message, obviously. And they'd been getting hit really hard in the days leading up to it. But Ryan, we were hearing from Donald Trump for however long that he would broker a peace deal within 24 hours. We are now pushing into the 6th month of his presidency, and it's getting worse. It's not getting closer at all.
Yeah. And meanwhile, there seems to be some operation happening against Darren Beattie, who's a top State Department official and one of the key guys in pushing back against, one of the key guys in what you would call like the peace camp. And
the non-interventionist,
yeah. And
he'd be sort of decried as an isolationist from the Lindsey Graham faction, yes.
And so he's getting hit in the Telegraph with this article. The headline is, Trump official who shut down counter-Russia agency has links to Kremlin. Darren Beattie, who alarmed the State Department with his pro-Moscow views, is married to a woman whose uncle has ties to Vladimir Putin. By the way, as a former tabloid reporter when I was at HuffPost, the word tie, anytime you see the word ties or links, that is what's called a kind of get out of defamation jail-free card.
Yeah.
Because think about the word link.
Yep.
You're linked to everything.
We are linked to Putin by doing this segment.
We're linked to, breaking point is linked to Putin.
Yes.
And tied to Putin. Linked and tied.
Linked and tied, yes.
So we have a statement from the State Department here.
Yeah, this is an exclusive statement to Breaking Points from the State Department that says, it isn't a coincidence that these attacks on Darren Beattie are surfacing as the administration is working to fight censorship domestically and champion free speech around the world. We will get back to that in just a moment. These fake news outlets are so desperate to keep these censorship tactics alive and discredit the Transparency Initiative. They are publishing false smears on a respected and effective employee at the State Department. Now, Darren Beattie is an enormously controversial person who was working in the sort of media punditry space before being plucked into the State Department in this administration. He had worked in the White House.
Got fired for speaking at like a white nationalist conference.
Right, from the first Trump White House. Right, yeah, exactly. And then it is brought in the second administration, ruffles feathers for sure in the, but especially among the interventionist crowd, because they are probably more offended by his questioning of interventionism than they are.
The white nationalism stuff, whatever. It's coalition.
It's coalition. So anyway, Darren Beattie, we confirmed, the State Department says, passed all of his background checks. So this innuendo about his wife and her uncle, it's interesting, Ryan, because to work in a key position in the State Department, actually the Biden State Department went through this with, what's his name, Rob, on Iran stuff.
Porter?
No, that was Trump.
Rob Malley.
Yeah, Rob Malley on Iran stuff. And it did eventually come out that he had some interesting links and ties. But you'd obviously,
book coming out, by the way.
Oh, interesting. You'd obviously be vetted. So Darren Beattie's wife gave a statement to the Times, the UK Times, quote, far from being Kremlin aligned, Putin publicly denounced my uncle and his ownership stake in Bashkir Soda, whereupon the Putin government stole his company from him. He has lived in exile for Russia for 5 years. I'm deeply disappointed that the Telegraph would omit these material and publicly discoverable facts that completely undermine the suggestion that my uncle or I am Kremlin linked, which is the narrative backbone of the entire piece.
Linked to the Kremlin by being adversaries. We'll find out if this is get out of defamation jail or not, because I imagine, this is the UK. It's much easier to get sued. It's much easier to win a claim than it is here in the U.S. So, right. The point is, there is a connection between her uncle, which is come on, uncle.
Yeah.
You're now you're responsible not just for what you do, not just for what your wife does, but your wife's uncle does. And it turns out the wife's uncle was actually beefing with Putin over some oligarch stuff.
And that's not really in the article, is it? Yeah. So, Ryan, it is amusing to see the State Department, and Beatty himself in his post on X said, for anyone who passionately supports President Trump and fights to advance his agenda for the American people, immediate hit pieces come with the territory. Interestingly, that echoes the exclusive statement that we got from the State Department, which is suggesting that this is a hit piece timed specifically because of what's happening in Ukraine right now. And you read the piece and can even take issue with Darren Beatty working in the State Department, can take issue with his views. I actually think that it is laden with innuendo and probably timed exactly as they're implying it's timed.
Yeah, it probably is. But we shouldn't move on without just taking a moment to dwell on the ability of the State Department and Marco Rubio's people to apparently hold two completely contradictory things in their head at the exact same time. One is that their administration, quote, is working to fight censorship domestically and champion free speech around the world. You're like, I'm sorry, you're doing what? You're fighting censorship domestically by going through the social media of every college student and then trying to find anybody who's here on a visa.
Of every non-citizen college student, apparently.
And yeah, so you've got a permanent resident who protested Israel's actions at Columbia, Mahmoud Khalil, a green card holder married to an American citizen who has an American citizen daughter who he has never seen because he is behind bars for his speech, and you every day are fighting censorship. You're like, okay. Anyway, like that they could say, like the fact that they could type that up and nobody's like, this is gonna come off weird to like the whole world who sees what we're doing every day.
Well, it's important from their perspective, messaging-wise, that they actually do lean into that, because their contention, it's not from their perspective morally inconsistent, because their contention is that it's speech for U.S. citizens. And so they've done things like get rid of State Department contracts with the Global Engagement Center and groups that have designed these like censorship apparatus. And they, what was it, just last week, said that they were no longer giving visas to people who had sought to interfere with the free speech rights of Americans. So again, I disagree, obviously, with the Ozturk and Khalil cases and the way the State Department has handled those. We've said that, we've covered that many times, but I think from their perspective, you have to lean all the way into saying that we just totally brazenly are champions of free speech, because otherwise it would imply that they think they actually are curtailing free speech.
Right. And what's amazing, though, is if you think about that, let's take their explanation at face value and pretend it is on the up and up. They're saying, yeah, okay, what we are concerned about is the speech of American citizens. If you're a foreigner here in our country, that is a privilege. And shut up. We don't want to hear any criticism from you. At the same time, they're telling other countries, if an American citizen is in your country, the First Amendment applies to them in your country, and they are not subject to your censorship laws. Your people, if they come to our country, cannot criticize Israel and they are subject to our censorship rules. But when our people come to your country, they cannot be censored. Like, not that they would try to make anything consistent, but like, what's the principle there under which their citizens are not entitled to speech rights in our country, but we, who are the free speech champions of the world, insist that ours are entitled to it in your country?
I was going to say, the really important point is about that principle, period, because the argument that Mahmoud Khalil or Mesa Ozturk are undermining the U.S. foreign policy goals, which is the provision that Marco Rubio has used to justify revoking the visas, the principle of their speech, which in Ozturk's case was a pro-BDS op-ed about the college student government and the administration at Tufts, that is somehow undermining the foreign policy of the United States, interfering with the foreign policy of the United States. Now, the powers of that law are broad and actually probably should be reconsidered, period.
As federal Judge Trump said.
Let alone used. But all that is to say, the principle is that it is beyond the pale to be critical of Israel because it's hurting the foreign policy goals of the United States. And I think what you're getting into there is criticism of Israel being anti-Semitic, which is something, of course, that has been passed in bills in Congress before, that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism and is a common refrain. And that's not free speech for Americans either, even though it's being applied in this case to people who aren't American citizens. The implications down the line are setting the stage for more censorship of American citizens.
And if we can tell other countries, what their speech codes and laws need to be with regard to American citizens, can we tell other countries that they must ban criticism of Israel within their countries too? Not to give ideas to anybody, but
You just did.
I mean, most of them don't need that idea. They've already gone down that road.
If they end up getting rid of Darren Beatty, they can bring you in. There'll be a job open. You can come in.
Well, Beatty and I have both interviewed Imran Khan.
Oh, really?
He did the last interview with Imran Khan before he was jailed.
No way.
Beatty's very good on Pakistan.
Oh, that's quite interesting. He's an eccentric thinker.
This is undoubtedly a true statement.
I have to say I was surprised when they brought him into the State Department. That's
all right.
It's, as the kids say, based.
And it's not, I don't think that Rubio was involved in bringing him in, to put it gently, right?
Likely not. Maybe Michael Anton and those guys. I don't know. It's a good question.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show, ad-free, and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.